Welcome back, Source Nation. You're listening live to Can We Talk by Master Relationship Coach Myra McKnight.
Hello, Source Nation family. Thank you for coming back with me. This is Myra McKnight with Can We Talk? And as I told you, we were going to have in the studio an amazing guest. Her name is Gina Humber. She is a national speaker on diversity and education, a New York City teacher, and an accomplished author. She graduated from City College of New York, where she has earned her master's degree in special education and a minor in African American history. Gina has self-published It's All Good, an amazing children's book that helps build self-acceptance and esteem in children who look different or feel different in a world that minimizes people to categories and biases, while at the same time gives a true child's perspective on diversity and opens up children to discuss and celebrate their differences. I am very grateful and happy to have Gina as my guest in the studio. And Gina, how are you this evening?
I'm great. How are you, Myra?
I'm doing well. I thank you for being a part of the show today. I'm excited about what you're doing and the things that you are going to give us and help us to understand the platform in which you are and the project that you are doing now. So tell our audience, Gina, about you. I gave a little bit of synopsis about you, but I know there is so much more. Tell us about this new project that you have and how it came about.
Okay, thank you, Myra, for that introduction. That was so sweet. Thank you. The new project that we've got coming up is called Diversity is a Verb, Youth Nation. And as you were saying, it birthed from the book, and then from the book birthed other things. And then I started to see as a teacher what our students and youth needed. And it came down to access, whether it's access of information or access of getting it, and that access being denied. So I thought about ways where our youth can get access where other kids might have access to, such as education, important information as it relates to self-esteem, positive attitudes. And I thought about using our social media. So most of your audience is probably, as well as you, use Facebook, and Facebook has something called Facebook Live. And I thought if I gathered all the great people that I know who have specialty areas as it relates to psychology or, like I said, as it relates to anything that has to do with uplifting them, I thought, what if they came on my Facebook group and did a short 15-minute live video, and then youth from all over can ask them questions, and that these people would be experts in the field, so that if a young child wanted to know, if a teen wanted to know about scholarships, I'd make sure to have someone on to discuss that. If there was something in regard to suicide prevention, I'd have somebody on to discuss that. And it enables this group of young teens, diverse teens, to be able to have a conversation with someone they probably would not have access to. You know, that's that word, access, you know,
right.
A word that's been kind of denied, too, from them. And right. So have different people on who can give them access into how to be successful. And a lot of times our children not only don't have access, but, you know, sometimes their home life doesn't always, you know, provide them everything that they need. And in this way, what we decided to do was set up this group where twice a month someone comes on with the agenda that we've let out the youth know about, and they can get what they need and be able to ask them a few questions. And we would have, like I said, this twice a month with different people, and we're really looking forward to it. We're having our kickoff party in New York City in Harlem on July the 7th at 7 p.m. So it's very easy to remember, 777 at 7. So we've just acquired a state-of-the-art community center, and we've also acquired a rapper by the name of Tito Montana, who is awesome. And he will be one of the lineups in terms of speaking to the youth about his struggles and his triumphs and how do you succeed.
Right. Wow. Wow. You know, Gina, what I like about what you're doing, it's relevant for today. And even, you know, a lot of times in our school systems and what's been created for our children doesn't tap into their creativity, I don't think. And I saw a couple of YouTube videos and things of that nature where you are in there with the kids. I mean, you know, we're talking about the rappers. We're talking about those that are different than who we normally see, the diversity of the couples. And that's something else I wanted to ask. Where did that title come from? That's amazing title, how you're tying your project in with the title, Diversity is a Verb.
Oh, my gosh. That's well, you know, what happened was, of course, the children's book, It's All Good, came out. And we ended up debuting at the Museum of Natural History in New York City, which was phenomenal. From that, I got to do a lot of research based on diversity. I mean, we can get into why I wrote the children's book in a minute, but it ended up being, I got into a lot of research as it relates to diversity. And I know that, well, I think that the best way to break down systemic racism is through diversity. And we're seeing it now in this political climate. Different people from different backgrounds all over are standing up. And that's what needs to happen to start to break down this kind of systemic racism. So prior to all this stuff that we're all seeing now, I understood that diversity has to be a verb. It can't be just a word that's used and people just kind of go, oh, yeah, you know, like I've seen businesses say, oh, we have diversity. And I've seen schools say we have diversity, but there's no action behind it. You know, we just got done with Black History Month in February. Very few schools took time to make every single day count as it relates to that. We don't use it. And now here we are now in March, which is Women's Month. And how many schools are actively, you know, pursuing teaching students about women who've contributed, you know, and they can do so and do it in the curriculum as well. So there's no excuse. But we use diversity when we want to appease people. And so now I've got to a point where I realize I don't want you to use the word. I want you to use the action. And so that's how the business became of diversity as a verb. And then the hashtag diversity as a verb can be seen, and then shirts and apparel. But we understood that our diversity is a beautiful thing. And right now, diversity is under attack, Myra, big time. And it's because, you know, I remember when I first came out with my children's book, I got a lot of hate mail. I got hate stuff on Twitter, and people were amazed that a children's book would have hate mail to it. And I got, oh, you see, people are teaching this diversity thing. And see, so it made me realize that if you hate diversity, then I got to push it, because that's the key. For me, that's the key in order for us to become one. And if we can become one and powerful, both economically and politically, we can start to break these things that are going on in this country and globally, because racism isn't just in the United States. It's global, you know. Absolutely. So that's how diversity became diversity is a verb. It needed action behind it.
Absolutely. And what you said, you know, and I want to piggyback off of that, because when people, see what happens, people get uncomfortable. You know, when you step out of that comfort zone of what people expect you to be in or how they expect it to be, when you step out of that comfort zone and you do something that is different, people get uncomfortable because they want you to be quiet. They don't want you to talk about that because it might make them feel uncomfortable and it might make someone else feel uncomfortable. And you're absolutely right, Jenny. You got to push forward in that and say, okay, this is uncomfortable. So this means that I'm tapping into something, and it's going to, what this is doing is helping everybody, because I think once people get past it and realize it is what it is, it's here. Because in our country, we really want folks to just kind of be quiet and don't talk about it. It'll be okay, but it becomes like a kettle, a teapot about to explode, because it can't work that way. It's too many too many people. We're a melting pot of different people, and I know in New York City that's what you're known for. That the many people that are there, but you have so many different types of people, but everybody's not being represented.
Absolutely.
As long as they're there and moving around, you see them. But that means I see you, but be quiet.
Right. Because in order for this systemic racism to work, they have to marginalize people. And they can be marginalized based on our culture, ethnic, religion, size, gender, sex. You've got to be able to marginalize people, and you've got to be able to put yourself on top. And so for me, diversity brings about equality. And we start to work not as individual groups, but as one big fist. I mean, the beauty about what's happening now politically, and I've discussed this before on different platforms, is now you're seeing so many things. I mean, that Women's March that happened on January 21st, that was unheard of. You know, as for the time that even I've been on this earth, you're talking about in 7 different continents. It didn't just happen in the United States. It was happening all over the world. And so when a change like that happens, it's time for people to take notice. And what they're really taking notice of is that not just am I being oppressed, or not just am I being attacked, but now you get to open your eyes and you see other people and what they're going through. It's a lesson on humanity. And unfortunately, you know, we as people always got to kind of learn the hard lesson. You know, history, though it has repeated itself plenty of times in regards to this area, history repeats itself because we keep making the same mistakes. And I think now it's very important for us to stop making the same mistakes. But at the same time, I do want to say that, you know, I am very Afrocentric. I believe in building up our Black Wall Street. I believe in building up within ourselves culturally, but I do understand that standing together in groups as a whole can fight the battle much better.
Absolutely. Because it takes all of us. We all have a hand in this, and if we all would do just a little bit of something towards the betterment of our global society, you know, we all benefit from that. And you can have your, you know, every culture has their own little space and their own little thing of what they're about and what they do, but that does not it does not stop you from being part of a global society for the good of all people. You know, and that makes a difference, you know, and our kids, and I want to get to your book, It's All Good. You know, let's talk about that. I got to thumb through a little bit of it on your social media, and I saw the different cultures of different children and children with disabilities and things of that nature. And, you know, my heart was kind of mushed about it because my youngest brother was born with a disability. And my first, as a young girl, I always wanted him to be different. I wanted him to be like everybody else because they talked about him so. And that was my first march. I did a march, the March of Dimes is what I did. And I was about 12 years old, and I was collecting money and doing the March of Dimes, you know, and because I had this empathy and desire for those that were less fortunate, because back then in that day, Gina, what happened was kids were not put away, but they were you know, my mom held on him very closely. And so he wasn't able to play and do things with the kids because they would make fun of him. And when I saw that in your book, and you went to the special ed school and things of that nature, but kids can be rude and they can be crude if they don't know,
Mm-hmm.
and let's talk a little bit about what does that book bring to our children that are reading it, the book It's All Good that you wrote.
Okay, I'm going to first talk about the 2 reasons of why I wrote the book, and then I'll get to that great question that you just asked me. So I am an educator, but I'm a special education teacher, right? So what I got to see was in my class of special ed students that there weren't any books that depicted them, that told their story. And if you can't see your images, whether it's on TV or in books, you don't have a voice. It's a very clear message that gets sent out when you don't see your image, when you don't hear your story. So that was one light bulb moment. And the second light bulb moment for me is one of the characters discusses melanin, and that would be the African-American young girl that you saw on the cover. And that had to do with my own situation. I mean, I'm sure you saw my photo, but at the time, my daughter, I had long hair, and my daughter, who is 16 now, was only 6 years old then, and she did not like her complexion. She wanted to be my complexion, and she didn't see any beauty at all in being dark-skinned. And that's not an isolated incident in just my home.
Right.
From that goes on in a lot of different homes, not just African American, Caribbean, Latino. It goes on where there's a difference of color, especially so much where one doesn't understand, at such a young age. And so she didn't even see me, Myra, as African American or black. She had a very hard time. And again, there were not children's books that I, as an educator and as a parent, could reach out and read. I saw books on hair, and which is fine. I saw books on natural hair and hair, but I did not see books addressing melanin. And so for me, those 2 light bulb moments became a huge factor. And so I realized as a special ed teacher that for me to create a book with 4 main characters, Asian, African American, one with disability, one Latino, and have bilingual words in it, show images of a child in a wheelchair with a disability, show images and discussions of what melanin looks like. Then exactly what you said in regard to your brother, having a tough time in school. These issues are eliminated because we're having discussions about them, And then I made sure throughout the book, Myra, to include Muslim girls. So you'll see a girl with a hijab on. You'll see Jewish. You'll see overweight. You don't see these in children's books. Everybody is nice and thin, European American, and blonde hair and blue eyes. And that's just not everybody's story. And so how do you say to your child that they're worthwhile and they're valuable and they're beautiful if all they see is thin characters? How do you say to your child you're worthwhile if you don't see your language of Spanish in a book and wonder about, well, you speak it at home? How is it not that the world that we live in, this macrocosm world, is not in our books in a microcosm way? And that's a part of that, that system too. When you find out, I did statistical research, and I think they said 85% books, 85% of children's books are mostly of European American thin characters. And so what does that say for the rest of the population that's in the world?
Absolutely, because we're still here.
And so me writing this book, as an educator, I knew what to put in it in terms of substance, and in terms of how children can understand. Children's books, in all reality, parents don't know this, should be very chunked. So each story is an individual kind of story, each story from the character. So it's set up so that when you read one story, you as the parent discuss it. It's set up so that when you read the next story, you discuss it. It's set up that way so that these ideas can be learned And then you as the parent take those ideas and you move them into your own life. Because the only way we're going to stop racism, or at least break it, is when we begin to incorporate other people's ideas and cultures and religions, and we respect them. I don't like this word tolerance personally. You know, I hear the word a lot. Oh, well, you know, you have to we have to build tolerance. I don't want to ever tolerate another brother or sister. I want to be able to accept their views. I might disagree with them, but I accept them. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we really this discussion should be about. So this book sets it up so that parents and teachers can have a discussion, because in class, those discussions are happening, whether we like to think about it or not. In class, whether it's a regular ed class or a special ed class, the discussion of race, gender, culture, ethnicity, those conversations are coming up, and there isn't anything to support them, and we have to create that society.
And you know, Gina, and you know, and it's amazing, you know, just the courage and just the strength to be able to bring that to light, because you're absolutely correct. They are being talked about. Our children, our teens are talking about it. But what is happening is they don't have that balance, because either they're talking about it from an angry position, or lack of knowledge position, or what they hear their parents say. And they are talking more about the conversation of whether they call diversity of their way. And what the book is bringing is a different way to talk about diversity in our schools, in our homes, and things of that nature. And I think that where you are and what you're doing, it's even better than the way the adults, because the adults aren't talking about it at all. And as you word tolerance, you know, I'm tolerating you, and nobody wants to feel like you're just putting up with me. And so that means that you're not hearing me, and we're not engaging in some type of meaningful conversation about our differences. And you're absolutely correct. The children the teens, they are talking about it. So when parents read the book, what are some of the things, tell me what some of the children are saying when they read the book? It's all good.
Well, you know, as I was listening to you, I thought about this saying I heard, which is a good children's book teaches just a child, but a great children's book teaches both the parent and the child. And we believe we have a great children's book. So some of the conversations I've gotten back from parents have been, you know, that they felt that way as a child as it relates to melanin. And they didn't even know it was melanin, you know. And so they would say things like, you know, I felt that way. You know, I was either the light-skinned one or the dark-skinned one, and I felt like the odd one out. And this book kind of reminded me of that. And then I have some parents who are Asian who say, you know, I haven't seen any Asian characters in children's books, and thank you so much for this. There's a discussion in terms of bullying throughout the book and how to work through that. And so what you'll hear if people go on my site, which is of my name, GinaHumber.com, you can actually look through, oh, my God, we must have hundreds of parents who've taken pictures with their child with the book, you know, and then email us a story. And so one story was, it was about a young girl, and she said that she never thought of herself as pretty, you know. And as a teacher and a mother, it just hit me hard. And she said, you know, I didn't know that this is called melanin. And she had came to one of my book events, and I said, oh, yes, you know, it's beautiful, it's rich, it's, you know, we had this discussion, and she said, I always thought I was ugly, but now I know I'm unique. And the way she got the unique from is from one of the lines in the story. And another parent had came to me because one of the issues was a child was overweight and being bullied by it. Again, another issue that's not talked about mainly in children's books. And so the mother was saying that he just kept reading that particular part and how he felt about himself afterwards. She said, you know, I just thank you so much. And so as an educator, it's rewarding. As an educator, it's rewarding. As a parent, it's doubly rewarding, knowing that there's a need out there. You know, I have nothing against the Cat in the Hat, and I've got nothing against you know, a lot of the children books that we used to read as a child. But I want for your audience members to think about, we live in a 21st century. Okay, the issues and the things that we went through as children aren't the same issues that these kids are going through now. And somehow those books, yes, bring us nostalgia and they're sweet, but they're not addressing the issues. And usually children's books tend to have a message in them. And so I'd like to think that this is a book for the 21st century, you know, in dealing with some of the issues that teachers deal with in the classroom or parents deal with at home. We want to have a book that addresses those issues because the fluff time is over. You know, our kids are now on social media and they're seeing things and hearing things that we wouldn't have even dreamed about 30 years ago. So we have to prepare them. We have to prepare them.
Absolutely. And, you know, and it's giving them a voice for sure. And kids are very smart. And very, you know, but kids, they, you know, depending on where they are in their life and where they are in their household and parenting and things of that nature, for a child to be able to pick up a book and let it tell a whole lot to them is what I think is beneficial. Because, you know, and I agree with you about the Cat in the Hat and Dr. Seuss and all that, but it brought you into more of a fictional kind of mindset. You know, you're always dreaming of, you know, the princess and the frog and those kind of things. And you're right, they're cute and they're sweet. But what has to happen is kids face so much today. And I want to say this, anyone out there in our Source Nation family, you're listening to Can We Talk with your host, Myra McKnight, and my amazing guest, Gina Humber. Please give us a call if you are interested or inquiring. You want to ask Gina a question, 619-924-0933, 619-924-0933. And, you know, and the book allows them to just be able to read, and you know what, giving back to parents. Because, you know, and you amazingly, we'll get to that later, about 5 children, you know, we can be amazed when our kids read something or see something, and they come to us and like, Mom, did you know that? You know, they're able to talk about that freely. And looking at the children on your website, they're happy. You know, they're excited about reading this book. And what mother doesn't want a child to be excited about reading?
Absolutely.
Not one. And I know as an educator, it thrills you for children to learn because you find a niche as to what works for our kids. And I'm quite sure you, your family, and everybody's proud of this book that you've done because it allows them to be able to bring themselves on the front page. That page kind of lifts up, whether they are African American or Asian, whether they're European, whether they have a disability. It's kind of like we're all in this together. I'm a child, they're a child, and it can kind of relate to that, which is an amazing thing for our time today. So, Gina, what's the age group for your children's book?
I would say from 2nd grade up to, and I think it's because even though it's a picture book, the message in it, I made sure, like I said, through chunking for smaller kids, but there's an underlining mature message in it that even a 6th grader could adapt in terms of understanding. And I set it up that way academically for them to be able to take on a mature topic, but to chunk it in small pieces. And even at that age, the pictures and the images are very important. So we made sure we had a great illustrator, Jai James, to help us in terms of this book, a brother out in D.C. So all the illustrations are done well, and we're just very proud of it, very proud of it.
And you're absolutely right. The illustrations are beautiful. They're bold and they're beautiful. I was reading also, Gina, something that stuck out that you said, and I want you to kind of expound on that a little bit for me. You said create your own solution, or something to that effect. We have to create our own solution. And what do you mean by that? Us creating our own solutions.
Right. So you'll see me say that a lot. We are our own solution, because I was brought up in an era where the people in the community, we answered the call in terms of if we saw a child and, they had money sticking out their pocket, we, yell out from the window, put that money in your pocket. We supported our stores that were in our community, and our stores supported us. Right. And whether the stores, when I grew up as a kid, my grandfather owned the candy store in my neighborhood. So it wasn't just you bought from him. It was also in the summertime he'd give out candy. It was a different kind of environment. I'd like us to go back to that. We have always been entrepreneurs, always. I remember a time where now you can go to IKEA and pick up your bed, but I remember a time of actually waiting for the woodworker or the man who did carpentry to finish our bedpost in terms of making it. And that's the real furniture, that would last, and you pass it down to generation to generation. And so that's kind of lost, and it's gotten lost in big businesses and big stores, and that entrepreneur who has that small store, who's baking cakes or making small things, we don't support them anymore. And so we are our own solution. When I think of diversity as a verb, youth nation, I'm looking at people who are sacrificing their time. Like I said, this rapper, Tita Montana, fabulous rapper, and I'd love your audience to definitely support him on his social media. He's donating his time to come out and to speak to the kids. I mean, that's like a perfect explanation. You know what I'm saying? That we have it within our own community. We have everything we need. And I grew up in that era of Black Panthers. I grew up in the era where, okay, so you're not providing our breakfast? Okay, we're going to have these breakfasts. And people donated food and the kids ate. And we need to go back to that. We need to go back to a place of, even if it has to be in the 21st century way, we just all text one another and go, okay, this is what's happening on 125th Street, and so these same people who are donating their time to this event that's happening in July. We've got a community center, which is state-of-the-art, again, donating in Harlem. So I don't want to hear this kind of mindset, where people say, oh, we don't do nothing. No, you haven't asked. You haven't stepped out. I heard you speaking earlier about, what God has to bring us in terms of relationships. And in order to reach out to those relationships, the Bible says you have not because you ask not. And we're in a state in this world of doing it. I do me. I didn't grow up like that. I'm willing to say, this brother here is volunteering his time to come and speak to youth. This organization here is sponsoring this event, and they're doing it in the state-of-the-art facility. I don't want to hear what people can't do anymore. I want to hear what you can do. I know the system is broken. We all who are listening to this know the system is broken. That's not news for us. And the system has been broken for a very long time. But how long are we going to keep talking about the system being broke? Asians are talking about the system being broke. They are working within their communities, you know what I'm saying, to do what they need to do in order to make it successful. And so that has to be for every single group. And we ourselves are our own answer. We are the ones that can, if you know that there's a shop that a sister owns, a nail salon, go and support it. Go and support it. If you know that, radio shows and magazines and people out here doing it, give them the support. You know, I think it's very important. I especially go out of my way when I see young entrepreneurs, whether it's jewelry, whatever it is, to support them.
Yeah.
And some way we've lost that, and we need to get back to that. And if we don't learn during this presidential election to get back to that, it's going to be a bumpy 4 years.
Absolutely. And you know, and you're saying a whole mouthful, because it is kind of that mentality of it's about me, and I'm going to do me, and I'm going to I'm waiting on for me, and you know, me is a selfish mindset when it's just that. Not saying that you don't do for yourself, but we have so many compartments of our global being that we do have to tend to. Of course, you have to tend to yourself, to your children, to your family, but we do have some time to help that next person or encourage the next person. Or, as you said, go buy a pair of earrings from the girls. There's a lady who has a beautiful shop up in the mall, and some of the malls or some of the stores are going out. And I tell my husband every time we pass by there, I'm praying all the time that our shop stays open because of the competition. So I'm making a point. You know, well, really, because the clothes that are in there are just kind of not there for me, so to speak, but that's okay. I'll buy some jewelry, or I'll buy a pair of glasses or something. So I'm making a point to go in there a couple of times a week just to do something. Of course, what I buy won't pay the rent, but you know what? What it does do, it encourages her. You know, I'll stop in just for a moment and what you got new and purchase something. So if we all do a little bit, so if you can imagine, you know, 100 people doing that a month, just buying some earrings or just buying a necklace, if 100 people do that once a month, you are encouraging them, because at some point they're going to rise up and get to that point that they want to be. But we all need just a little bit of a nudge from somebody else. You know, a perfect stranger, and you're hitting the head, you know, the nail on the head. We can do better. You know, we can do better. We just gotta do better at the end of the day, which is extremely important.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Gina. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, as I'm listening to you, I was thinking of this this very short poem, if you don't mind me saying it. This poem was written by, I think his name was Martin Niemöller, and he was a prominent Protestant pastor, and he was outspoken against Adolf Hitler. And his poem goes something like this. First they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. And I think that's exactly what it's coming down to. It's coming down to, that's to me the whole role of diversity, that we would speak for one another, you know, and that we would do so in such a way that we become such a powerful group of people. You cannot ignore us, and we will not be marginalized. But the importance of us picking each other up has to become part of our daily regimen. It really has to. And in the classroom, I see it. I see children who are broken, you know, and I see parents who are broken. And I grew up in a time where, you know, my grandmother would cook, and different kids from the neighborhood. A lot of people who are listening to this right now can totally identify to that one person on the block who handed out clothes, or who handed out food to the kids. And that's where we need to go. And so for us to be our own solution pulls us out of a lot of the trenches that we find ourselves in, you know. And I'm just so pleased, you know, to be able to be on here to discuss that with you. Thank you for that opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Well, you know, it's my pleasure, and I'm telling you, I love to hear these stories. I love to hear where we are making a difference, because we have to. that's the ability of a human being, is to see the need. And there are so many needs out there. If you might not be a special ed teacher, or you might not be a rapper, but you're a human being. And as a human being, there is somewhere, some way, somehow, every day we can reach out to help somebody. And not so much about what it's going to do for us, because as I tell a lot of the people that we work with, my husband and I, is that when you do it for the good, you don't look for anything back from it. And I think if we stop wanting to get cash in for what you do, you know what I'm saying? Because every nice thing you do or every nice thing you say, you're looking for a cash-in trip. You know, you're looking for that what is it about me? What am I going to get out of it? You can't think like that, because at some point in your life, somebody's going to need to do that for you, or something for you. And you won't be able to give anything back, because you want that person to give or do because that's just who they are. And it makes a big difference in all our lives when we do that. So I'm going to tell you, Gina, I have just, I am proud. I'm happy. I'm excited about what you're doing. You know, definitely the Youth Nation project and what you're doing, and getting there with the children and the teens. They like that. They like for you to not always chastise them about what they do, but to encourage them about what they can do. And I saw some of that on some of your YouTube video as well. And you got them. Was that, I think it was Biggie, on your website. Just, kids think that's cool. And I think that it disarms them when they can see that you're just as cool as they are, but to a point, but you can be just as cool as they are.
Right. I'm a big hip. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, you can be just as cool as they are with a message. And that's what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm a big hip-hop head. And, so I grew up listening to hip-hop, and I love the messages, especially those that can reach our kids. And, I've been very blessed to have Hype Magazine support us. We got a lot of really big people supporting this Diversity is the Verb Youth Nation group, and a lot of it is the hip hop community, So I can't discount what they're bringing to the table in terms of helping me, and I can't discount the words of rap that enable me to keep doing what I'm doing. People like Nas and and some conscious rappers out there who definitely encourage. And so the message that I want our kids to come away with is, we're powerful. We are a very powerful, creative group of people in so many facets. And there's so many kids out there who don't see themselves as powerful, who don't see themselves as wonderful. And the idea that someone can come on twice a month and kind of remind them of that in order for them to be successful is a beautiful thing. It's a really beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Now tell us again, Gina, the debut. I remember that's July 7th, 2017. Right?
Right. Right. It'll be online for those who can't get to us. So if you're in Brazil or Georgia or Alaska or wherever you are, I know you guys have a lot of different countries listening to your radio station. You can go on to Facebook at Diversity is a Verb Youth Nation. And you can log in on July 7th, 2017 at 7 p.m. And we'll be having that live video going on. And for those who are in New York City, who can get to New York City or in Harlem, we are offering a free kickoff party. And that information will be on the Facebook site, or you can go to GinaHumber.com and you can click the tab that says Youth Nation, and connect with us that way. It's a free event, and so we're looking for it to be monumental. And like I said, it's a global event. So
Absolutely.
if someone is in Africa, you may not be able to get it live, meaning you're speaking to the person, but you're definitely able to see it, and you're definitely able to hear the message of the speakers whom we've got set up for that day. And we're looking for an African troupe, and they'll be dancing that day. So it's going to be very celebratory. And it's at 7 p.m. and right smack in the middle of Harlem. But for people who want to know more information, such as groups, people have different youth groups that would like to come. I ask them to email me at diversityisaverb at gmail.com. And come on, because, there's no fee. This is about giving back. This is what this is about. And so there's nothing to stop you from getting this. Not the teen, not anybody. It's nothing to stop you from you to use your phone, because even like we were saying, everybody has a phone despite your economic standing. You have a phone, and that's it, and you could get on Facebook. And if you're in New York, all you got to do is show up, and we'll welcome you and enjoy who you are. And just love on you so that you can go out and do what we expect you to do, which is to be excellent and wonderful. Absolutely. And, of course, the children's book is on sale.
Okay, good. The children's book is on sale as well. Youth Nation, you got a lot of things going on, Gina. I'm excited about that. I want to keep that, going on my social media and my platform as well, and try to give that out as many people as we can. And we need to do that, our Source Nation family. We need to get this out, because our kids can pick up that phone 24/7. And what a wonderful way for them to even just get into the mix of this. And there is something that they're going to hear, that they're going to remember, that might change their whole dynamics of thinking. And every parent, every friend, every aunt, every cousin should get your young children in, and get the book. Get the book for your young children and your cousin and your friend, or the child next door. So, Gina, I want to thank you again for coming to the studio with me and spending a lot of time and giving us a lot of great information. And we definitely look forward to doing this exchange again, because I want to know how's it going and the next huge thing that you're going to do.
Thank you very much, Myra. I appreciate your time, and I thank your audience for taking time out to listen to this. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. You have a great night.
You too, love. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.